and welcome to another episode of Pickaway County Virtual Ag Days. I'm Katarina Sharp from the Pickaway Soil and Water Conservation District, and today we are out in the field with Alyssa Essman, her dad, Don Lamb, and his brother-in-law, Kent Harden, learning about soybeans.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Essman. I'm a weed science researcher at The Ohio State University. I study cover crops for weed control, looking at cover crops as a form of integrated pest management to help us reduce our weed pressure.
My name's Don Lamb. Our family has a small farming operation. We also have a fertilizer, chemical, and seed dealership. Been involved in agriculture all my life. Here today to talk to you a little bit about soybean harvest and what we do when we harvest soybeans.
My name is Kent Harden. I work for the Evolution Ag, which is a local Case IH dealership. I've done that for 13 years. I'm involved in this farm operation, so I do help and plant the crops for them. I'm standing in front of this Case IH combine today. This combine is used for harvesting corn, beans, and wheat. We're presently doing beans right now. If you look above me, if you can see, there's an auger above me, and this combine collects the grain as it goes through the field. And when it gets full, you have to dump it, and we'll dump it into a truck, and then we haul to the elevator. This combine has a head where we're harvesting beans today. This is a bean plant, and this is what the bean will look like when it's standing in the field. And these are little pods, and each pod has 2 or 3 and sometimes 4 little beans in them.
These soybeans will thrash out now in this nice, dry, arid weather, and you can see they're really a low moisture. Everything's really dry. This is a great time to harvest soybeans. That's why we like to harvest them earlier, because it's drier, there's less moisture in them. Even a dew overnight or a light fog will increase the moisture in the soybeans, and you won't be able to thrash them. They'll draw in moisture into the soybean, and it makes it a little harder to sell. Soybeans do get exported out of the country. A lot of them will go into containers overseas, and you want to make sure they're dry enough to store, they won't mold or won't deteriorate. So on a given day, a day like today where we've had a nice breeze all day, it's been sunny all day, you could probably harvest well into the night. Sometimes, as you know, the wind dies in an evening and fog, or you get a little bit of moisture or humidity. These plants become tough to cut, and it's tough to get the beans thrashed out of the pod. You can see where Mother Nature has already prematurely cracked the pod open. The bean is still in there. The pod is actually between getting moisture in it and shrinking and drying, increasing the moisture, decreasing the moisture has caused this pod to actually crack open on its own. And sometimes what will happen is the combine hits it, that bean will fall out before you even get it threshed. So that's the other thing. You don't want these standing in the field too long, because Mother Nature on some of these pods will actually thresh them themselves. So the longer you go into the wintertime, it'll reduce your yield more and more, because you'll have more field loss on your soybean plant. So that's why we like to harvest it when the weather's nice. Frost can kill the plants. You want your soybean plants to be mature before the frost comes through. If they're not mature, it will actually, basically like it does any other weed, it would kill the plant, it would turn it brown, and it would cause it to, at that time, to die, start to shed its leaves. You know, these plants, you'll see in another demonstration what a growing plant looks like. This is the mature plant, and it'll go from a nice green healthy soybean plant. It'll start to turn yellow as it matures, and sometimes what you'll see, like if a plant is green and actively growing when we get our first frost, it will turn the leaves brown. It'll automatically brown it, and then that's kind of a premature killing of the plant. Also cause the soybean themselves, they won't look like this. They'll be not fully matured. It'll be a lot harder to get them dry, and they'll look a little bit more like a lima bean and not necessarily like a soybean. And sometimes they never do get their moisture never gets really low enough to sell very easy. Typically it's going to take about, I'd say, about 3 months. This particular farm was planted May 31st, and we're out here October 5th harvesting it. You get into how many growing days does it take for a plant to become mature, and there are different hybrids of soybean plants. Some plants only require, you know, they're a lot shorter maturing than other plants. Some plants it takes a lot, several other days to mature than a soybean plant does.
Typically this combine can harvest on a good day, it can do 150 acres a day. So if a guy has 1,000 acres, you can see it takes a good while to get all your farms done. Yeah, typically there's a big cutter out front on this. And when you take beans, you cut everything, and everything goes through the combine, and the combine threshes it. It kind of rolls around like a washing machine, and there's a blower in there, and it blows all the light chaff out of the way, and the beans fall through these little holes, and then it goes in an auger and goes up in this bin. Where corn, we basically just take the ear and leave everything else in the field, so you don't have as much material. But obviously corn, you're going to have a lot more material per acre. There's these little real sharp cutter knives right here, and it cuts it off. Then it goes into the combine, and what it does, it gets inside. It basically, like you take your hands and rub everything, and it separates everything. It gets rid of the material you don't want, and you get a little bean up in the bin, and that's what we use for food products and other sorts for agriculture.
What do we do with the soybeans once we harvest them? We will actually harvest them with the combine. We put it usually into a grain cart. That collects it right in the field. That allows it, that combine will never stop harvesting, and the grain cart will capture the soybeans, and then it will take it into a grain wagon or a semi truck, and it will take it to town. There's several different buyers of raw commodities, soybeans or corn. So it will go to your local elevator, and you either have it contracted to sell, or you can sell it that day. Each day the market allows a certain price for the soybeans, so each farmer can determine whether he wants to take it to market. There's also bins. There's big grain bins that are on farms. They can actually take it to the farm and store it on the farm as well. And once they store it on the farm, then they will haul it out of those bins at a later date and determine to take it to the elevators. But there's usually soybean buyers around. There's soybean buyers that will ship it out for feed. There's soybean buyers that will ship it overseas to countries that like to process food-grade soybeans. So there are several different markets for the soybeans, which I'm sure you'll discuss later as well. Soybean futures, it is a commodity in the Chicago Board of Trade. They trade futures every day. Buyers will agree to buy at a certain price soybeans, and the sellers will also agree to sell at those prices. And the futures price dictates what a farmer would actually get.
We'd like to give a huge shout out to Alyssa, Dawn, and Kent for allowing us to spend the time out here on the farm with them today, and we'd like to thank all of you for joining us.